In today's MSP Spotlight, you're in for a treat. I'm talking to Dan, owner of Dogsbody Technology. He provides Linux and cloud expert services. He's been doing that for 20 years. And we're going to have a chat about his business, cloud, open source, recruitment, and more. So you can learn from his experience. Let's dive straight in. Dan Benton, a very warm welcome. Thanks for doing an MSP Spotlight for us. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Before we get into the detail, tell us, who are you, a bit about your background, and what your role is there at Dogsbody.
Sure. My name's Dan Benton. I'm founder, director of Dogsbody Technology. I am predominantly a techie. That's kind of how I describe myself. Yes, I'm director, but I've worked in technology for over 20 years, cut my teeth in technology at Sun Microsystems, huge multinational. Went off and became a corporate spy for a while, which is really good, but not going to be covered in this chat. And then started my own consultancy about 13 years ago, kind of right off the first 2 years, because that was me sitting on the sofa trying to work out what to do with my life. But the business has been going for about 13 years now. And I realized that there was a growth in consultancy in the sense of providing services for customers that maybe knew what they wanted but didn't know how to get there. When it was me just doing freelancing, and this I kind of differentiate between the difference between freelancing and consultancy. Freelancing is great when it's just you, and consultancy is when you sort of feel a need for a company. I realized I could never have holiday when I was a freelancer. I could never disappear off. My customers needed support 24/7. And so I started growing the business. I started making it more than just me. And so far, so good.
Yeah, it seems like you're doing a great job. And I have to say, we need to do another episode on the corporate spy thing. That sounds very interesting. So the elephant in the room, I love the branding, by the way. The name, Dogsbody, you're going to have to tell us, what's that about? Where does it come from?
It's literally just evolved naturally. It was a nickname I got given at college many years ago now. It has the same initials as me, DB. It's 8 characters long, so it works in a lot of places. Back in the olden days, beginnings of the internet, we used to be BBSs. I also used to have CB, and it used to be my CB handle. It was just one of those names that stuck with me for years and years. And when I started the business, I kind of ran with it. My unique skill point when I started the business was that I was a jack of all trades. I could read an awful lot of computer languages. I'd got experience with an awful lot of computer systems. Actually references back to why I was a corporate spy, because I could reverse engineer an awful lot of different technologies. And so it was a perfect fit for the business. And since then, as the business has grown, companies and customers seem to love it. I just need to go to an event once and then bump into someone 5 years later, they'll remember the business name. And so from that point of view, when you do that list of what should we call the business, it meets the criteria. You can say it over the radio and people don't have to ask you how to spell it, and all that side of things. So a few customers have commented now that they really love that we've embraced the term and don't see it as derogatory anymore.
Definitely, I think it's brilliant, and it's absolutely true that it's a memorable name for sure. I know when I came across you guys probably 12 months ago, perhaps, had a quick look at the site and stuff, and definitely one that stuck in my mind. So it works a treat. Brilliant. Thank you for that. So let's dive into the business a bit more then. So MSP is a term that we hear a lot. It's all-encompassing. It covers an awful lot. You're an MSP, but not an MSP. Do you want to tell us a bit more about the sort of the specific services you offer and kind of a bit more around your portfolio, as it were?
I'm a begrudging MSP is probably the right term, and no offense to anyone that runs with that term. Unfortunately, it's been used or overused. It's like a lot of business terms within IT and in our industry. We are, at the end of the day, a consultancy, and we specialize in Linux and we specialize in the cloud with a particular security bent. I myself and a number of staff have SC clearance, although that's not what we sell within the business. It's just a nice sort of cherry on the cake. The site that we're in here is actually a ex-military site. It's known as a ListX site, which means that we've got armed guards on the gate. It is part of a technology park, which is awesome, but it really ties into that whole security ethos that we've got around what we do. Because it's Linux and the cloud, a lot of our customers are web agencies. So we do an awful lot of e-commerce. People that are building sites. We've got one customer, for example, that's absolutely brilliant, but they only build websites just for golf courses and software for golf courses. That's their niche. Perfect, absolutely
That's
fine.
super niche, right? Yeah, that is
Yeah,
focused.
exactly. And also SaaS providers. So people, customers that have built an application, whether it be an application for the public to use or whether it be an application, again, with a particular niche that they're wanting to put online in a secure, stable, reliable way. And that's where we come in. We're not developers. We consider ourselves to be the ops in the DevOps part. Our ideal customer actually can technically do what we do. It's silly to say out loud sometimes, but from that point of view, we don't have to explain what we're doing. There is nothing worse than a customer coming to you and going, what is an SSL certificate anyway? And you having to waste 20 minutes explaining what an SSL certificate is and why it's a problem that it's just expired. So a lot of dev providers and dev companies don't like doing the ops bit. And so that's where we can come in and we can go, look, leave your developers to continue to develop, whether it be a website, whether it be a SaaS product. Let them do what they're really good at and leave us to do the monitoring, the maintenance, the patching, the securing. Let us be the one that gets woken up in the middle of the night when something goes horribly wrong. But more importantly, let us be the ones that deal with the day-to-day kind of chaff, and we actually call it chaff within the business, of the hosting provider that your application is hosted with sends you maintenance. It's absolutely fine. Yeah, hosting providers have to do maintenance. Well, let us triage that. Let us work out what it is that means to you. Do we need to fail over for that maintenance window? Do we need to have someone on call for that maintenance window? Or is it just not an issue at all? And so we set our main services are maintenance. Is that maintenance bit, is the building the technology in the first place and then maintaining it on an ongoing basis and keeping everyone happy along the entire process.
Yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense, doesn't it? Let the developers do what they should be, what they're paid to do, and let them focus on innovation. While the thing is, if you're running the platform, you've then got the experience and the scale, I suppose, to be able to do the same thing time and time again. So you're geared up to deal with that. That makes a lot of sense. In terms of the way you charge for that, then, so is it a project basis? So there's a recurring element in there as well. How do you tend to structure that?
It tends to fall into only a couple of criteria. So we've obviously got hourly billing. So much of what we do here is I don't want to say odds and sods, but it is kind of like, oh, can you just, which is not.
Well, you never want to hear that, do you? As an MSP?
Yeah, we're not a fan of the just word, but you've got to have that within your ability to be able to go, yeah, we can go do that. It's going to take a couple of hours. Here's our hourly rate. Mm-hmm. A lot of our business, probably about 75% of our business, is that maintenance part, in the sense of that ongoing maintenance of patching the servers, patching the infrastructure, maintaining the status quo, and being on hand when things go wrong unintentionally and you have to jump on it immediately. And from that point, we're very much a support business. And the scheduling things in. An awful lot of the work that we do out of hours is not jumping on the work, jumping on outages, because actually we run a really tight ship and we tend to know when things are going to go wrong during the working day, so we can fix them then. And so a lot of our out of hours work is actually things that are just scheduled in. Our customer has made a brand new version of their application that they want to go live with, and they need our help cutting that over, making that live. That wants to be done in the middle of the night. That wants to be done at a quiet time, not when you've got most of your users doing it. So we've got our maintenance side that ticks over. And then we've got the project side. Project side can be almost anything. In particular, again, building a brand new application. We also need to stay on top of things going end of life. In the Linux world, we do an awful lot of Ubuntu servers. The one we're currently working through at the moment is Ubuntu 18. It came out many years ago, 2018, funnily enough, and but it goes end of life in April next year, 2023. From that point of view, we've been giving our customers that are using Ubuntu 18 that notification that this piece of their infrastructure is going to go end of life, and how would they like to deal with that? And there's a number of different ways that it can be solved, from building a brand new thing on Ubuntu 22 or to extended support from Ubuntu, or just turn the thing off. A surprising number of customers have just gone, oh, we don't use that anyway. Oh, great. Okay, we'll just turn it off. So yeah, this project work of, right, let's do a thing. And of course, the value add things as well. We do, because of the security, we do things like pen testing, making sure that our customers are as locked down and secure as possible, which actually works really well as well, because we aren't invested in the technology. We're not the developers. So it really is helpful when a customer says, we want you to try and pick this apart. We want you to try and find the faults and find the problems in it. And we can go back to the developers. And going back to the Dogsbody side of it, because we've got that multiple skill set, we can usually go back to the developers and go, you've got a problem. We've actually diagnosed it down to the point of we can see which library the problem's in. We can see which part of the code the problem is. Go fix it. We won't tell them what to do, but here it is for you. And we can really add that value. It's not just to run a pen test and give the customer a 100-page report of all the things that are wrong. We're really trying to add that value in and actually go, right, we've worked out that these things are false positives. They're not a problem. These things are problems you need to deal with. Now let's work with your developers to go fix it and work out how we can put that into production.
Yeah, I mean, you're really treading the line. You can see how this model works in that you've got the developers who perhaps could work with the platform a little bit, would have an understanding to run the platform, and on your side, you've got the understanding of the developers, but together you kind of you agree a line, don't you? And you focus on your specialty. So it makes
and this is sense. Why we like working with developers that can technically do what we do, because it is a give and take. We need to be telling the developers things that are wrong and also things they're doing right, and they need to be doing the same to us. Wrong and right is probably way too strong a word, but in the sense of, we need to be going in this direction. This technology's going end of life. How can we help you migrate from it? And vice versa. They need to tell us that actually we're going to be changing this part of our infrastructure. We're going to be building this new microservice, doing this new thing. It's actually going to have more load on the infrastructure. Can we work with you to make sure that's not an issue? So there's always give and take. It is definitely a mutual collaboration between. It's not a clear handoff sometimes, but that keeps it fun.
Yeah, it sounds good. So in terms of the, you say you work with sort of developers on a daily basis. Just so I know, is it who would you talk to when you're pitching your service initially, for example? So are you involved? Do you tend to sit with a business owner and a developer, or is it do they come to you? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're in that very nice position where our marketing budget is non-existent. In fact, I can categorically say our marketing budget is 20 crunchy bars that I gave to our first 20 Twitter followers back 13 years ago, and we pretty much haven't spent anything since.
This is the worst thing to hear as a sales and marketer, Dan, I have to say. Go on with your crunchy bars.
No, we've obviously invested in our website and making sure that we're putting the right message out and attracting the right customers for us. Yeah. So yeah, there's much more of a line. But in particular, we want to make sure that we are talking to the right people, and that is hard. Back in the day, I've been in this industry for long enough that we've absolutely had CTOs come in and basically go, we need to be in the cloud. And I'll go, okay, what do you want to put in the cloud? I don't know. We just need to be in the cloud. Okay. It's just, those sorts of people. So, don't get me wrong, there are great CTOs out there, but there are also business owners or people that have been given the CTO moniker that don't justify that. Simultaneously, devs, we've had devs come to us that absolutely know what they want and what they need, and we're a great fit, but don't have buy-in from that higher level from within the business. So it usually is exactly that. It usually is a combination of the chief technical person that holds the purse strings and the chief developer, and working with both of them. We work quite nicely with a lot of our customers over Slack. We have a shared Slack channel. I can never say that sentence in right away. We have a shared Slack channel with all of our major customers, allowing them to ping us whenever they like. And it's really nice having both the head honcho in there, because they can just be in that channel, just sort of watching what's going on, and they don't get a surprise from the invoice at the end of the month. The last thing we want to do is surprise that business owner with, oh, hang on, why is this all these hours there that weren't there? Because they should have seen on that Slack communication backwards and forwards, and just sort of almost copying them in using sort of old email terms, and vice versa when there is business problems that need to be included. The developer is part of that as well, and it, like, tying us back to the whole, it really is a crossed connection between both parties.
From what you're saying, I'm seeing even more how important communication is absolutely fundamental to a business like yours, isn't it? It really is. So let's move on to open source. So you are obviously a fan of open source technologies. Many of the people watching this will be Windows shops and perhaps more inclined to use proprietary software.
Yep.
Give us your take on why it is you use open source. Is there any applications in particular you like? Give us a feel for why that's your preference.
That is such a loaded question, and I love it. I don't think it needs to be a open source versus proprietary. I don't think that ever needs to be sort of part of the conversation. I think so much of it is the best tool to the job, and one of the biggest reasons that I personally love open source is that it allows us access to so many more tools and so much more, so many ways of fixing problems. I could bound out all these sort of lovely stats, Linux runs 95% of the internet and things like that, mobile phones, they're Linux under the hood, all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, it really does come down to that. The application that we're using to record this video, I was looking up earlier, they've got on their website a list of all the open source technologies they use. They're a proprietary company, but they list all the open source, and it very much is, it's about not one being better than the other, but just doing one thing well. There's one thing I love about the Linux philosophy, and that is the fact that Linux as an operating system in particular loves this idea of just doing one thing well. If you've ever delved into Linux, you'll know that there is a sort command that just does nothing but sort. There's a grep command that just does nothing but search. Even just the list command is just lists. It doesn't do anything else. And so open source allows you to stand on the shoulders of giants. It allows you to take that thing that's out there and convert it into something that works just slightly better for you. And it's that whole idea of the sum of its parts is greater. We've had numerous times where we've taken an open source tool that does 90% of what it is that we want to do. So already we're 90% down the road, and we've gone and made an improvement to it and made it work for our customer. And part of our agreement that we have with all of our customers is that if we make any changes to an open source tool for you, customers ultimately paying for it, then they win, but ultimately we will then put that change out back to the internet and back out to that open source product, which means that the society as a whole, without getting too philosophical, gets to benefit. And we've had numerous times where we've done this, and another company, unbeknownst to us, has then gone and taken that new tool that we've gone and improved and made an improvement on top of that and then submitted that back, and we've gained that and gone, our next customers come along and we've gone, oh, it does that because we added it, but now it does this which we didn't add, and actually that's even better and works even better for you as a company. And it very much is just that sort of standing on the shoulders of giants.
It's an interesting area, isn't it? I suppose it's one of those things where, there's plenty of people who think, well, actually, that's great. You've got the expertise to modify them slightly. And I guess that's where it comes in, isn't it? It's almost, if you're an MSP and potentially, you want an application, I guess it's the ease that you get with proprietary software. Just a quick point I want to pick up with you. Support for these things. That's one of the main drawbacks, I'd say, of often with some. It depends on the model, obviously, but open source programs sometimes don't have the same support that the proprietary ones do, or that's certainly the perception. Do you find that to be the case, or what are your thoughts on that?
It's an interesting one, and so you get companies like Red Hat who have obviously make an operating system, and that is their entire model, for want of a better word. They are giving the operating system away for free, and they're then making money off of the support for that. That actually happens quite a lot, certainly for any of the big tools that are used. Like I say, the operating systems are usually supported by a large corporations. I mentioned Ubuntu earlier, owned and run by Canonical as a non-profit, but there's plenty of support there, whether it's paid for or whether it's community, which actually is another essential part of it. And even the big applications, you were asking about some of the big applications that we use. Probably one of the most ubiquitous ones at the moment would be something like Nginx, which has very much replaced Apache. Back in the day when I started this business, pretty much every web server I made was Apache. Now pretty much every web server we make is Nginx. Both of those are backed by foundations and groups and organizations that are supporting that. It's also part of what we do. So that's where we're adding value to our customers that are coming in. Our customers want to use these open source technologies as well as proprietary technologies, and in exactly the same vein, they want that level of support, and that's exactly what we can offer to them, because we know we have the tooling, we have the knowledge and the ability to give them that support, whether it be passing it upstream in some cases or whether it be in-house.
It comes down to what you started out with, doesn't it? The right tool for the job, and that gives you the full selection. In terms of the applications that you use, I mean, I often speak to MSPs about, is it possible to run like a fully open source stack? And surely you can't possibly go in and try and displace like Microsoft 365 on the desktop level and stuff. I mean, do you offer open source applications there too, or?
You started that sentence and I was kind of like, but why not? We have, genuinely, we are a company that runs entirely on open source. The laptop I'm talking to you on right now is running Ubuntu. I haven't touched Microsoft or Apple in 13 years now. I've got nothing against them. This is not me trying to be preachy about this in any way, shape, or form. It's purely about the choices that you want to make. The Office applications that we use LibreOffice, which allows us to read and write Microsoft Words files if we need to. There are plenty of SaaS applications out there as well, and this is where it is a balance, and I don't want to throw baby out with bathwater. It is about the best tool for the job, whether that be open source or not. And so to tie this all the way back to your opening question, that's where I think open source is so good, is because it just gives you more choice and more opportunity. If you have a customer that only does sort of basic Word and Excel, or if you like, doesn't have any proprietary reason to use it, then actually you can save them a huge amount of money by putting something like LibreOffice on their desktops, and they will operate absolutely fine. There are numerous charities, in fact there's a couple of governments that have done exactly that and saved huge amounts of licensing cost. So it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. It doesn't have to be, you've got to run Linux on the desktop, which, let's face it, is hard. It can be a pick the best tool for the job and allow those SaaS providers. We use Google Docs, absolutely, not exclusively, but they're great for talking to customers. They're great for exchanging ideas and information, having multiple collaborators on that. let Google do the open source side. They are using open source technologies within their stacks. I mentioned before Slack. Slack, again, are using open source technology. So it doesn't have to be us using it. It has to be just opening it up to the world a little bit more.
Presenting the options. No, that makes
Yeah.
absolute sense. So let's move on to cloud, if that's okay with you. So cloud technologies, although we've touched on that, but cloud providers in particular, obviously Linode are one. You work with multiple cloud providers, the big guys, some of the smaller alternatives as well. Why is that? Obviously, that's going to add complexity by having multiples there.
So one of the things that we love as a business, and one of our USPs really, is that we are all of market. This is something I decided quite early on, and I've been told that I'm sort of foolish for it, for want of a better word, but I'm actually quite passionate about it. And as far as I'm concerned, business needs a passion. It needs something to drive it. From that point of view, I wanted the ability for customers to come to us and say, I've built this thing, where do we put it? What do we do with it? And to be able to give them a honest answer, not just a, oh, well, this company is going to give us a kickback, or all of our providers use this, therefore all our customers use this, therefore we're going to use that provider. So we very much come at it from an all of market point of view, and generally speaking, we do it because it's hard, and that's fun. I know it sounds a little bit weird saying it out loud sometimes, but I've very much hired staff within the business in my image, rightly or wrongly, and we love a challenge. And so from that point of view, I wanted to keep it as open as possible. To use, this is going to be a very UK-based reference, so apologies for your international viewers. There is a financial journalist called Martin, Money Saving Experts, who I absolutely adore, because he wanted to make it available for everyone to get savings advice and not get ripped off as a consumer. And he's always been passionate about giving that advice and saying what the best bank account to use is and where you can get better bang for your buck. But he had to monetize that at the end of the day, and he did that through affiliate links, which is absolutely fine. But every single time he recommends a particular thing, a particular service, he'll do so with two links. This one will give us an affiliate link. This will give us a little bit of kickback and allow us to keep running the site and giving you good information. And this one won't, and you're free to use either. We do the same thing. He's a bit of a hero of mine, and we do exactly the same. There actually aren't that many providers that give you kickbacks, but it keeps us honest, and it keeps us keeping our ear to the grindstone regarding what's out there. It also really promotes staff growth. There is nothing worse than that atrophy that comes in from, oh yeah, it's just another one of those, press the button, spin them up, do the thing. I'm very much driven within this business by my staff, and if they want to learn a new technology, if they want to do a new thing, then I'm all over it. And in fact, I think definitely our customers that we take on are very much driven that way. I take on new customers based on what my staff want to learn or play with. Learn is probably the wrong word, but definitely play with. And so being open to every single cloud provider really keeps you on your toes. Having said that, it's really not as hard as you think, because there are usually clear winners. There are usually clear cloud providers winners, whether it be the big three of AWS and Azure and Google. For years, Google was much better for Kubernetes. They invented it. Therefore, why wouldn't you go and put your Kubernetes stack in Google? Obviously, AWS has been huge, and I would personally consider them PaaS at this point, platform as a service, because it's just so specific what you do in AWS. You can't just pick up that infrastructure and move it somewhere else. We huge users of Linode. We have so many accounts in Linode. It's just unbelievable. But our customers really like you as well from that point of view. It's very clear when you need a VPS provider to just go, well, actually, Linode's the winner. When you need a particular scalable solution, oh, you need this particular cloud provider for that particular niche. And let's not forget, there's the good old data centers as well. We had a charity come to us a while back who just needed a huge database put online, huge amount of storage, very little access. You can't beat a physical server in a co-located rack with lots of hard drives. There is no one solution. There is no one put everything in this provider, do this one thing. It's about finding the right thing for the right customer.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think that's a theme that we see, is that you just never know what the next customer requirement is going to be. So you've kind of got to have the tools for the job. Yep. When we're talking about the tools for the job, which are the ones that you use most? Can you give us an idea in terms of sort of the Linode services? We have to touch on Linode a little bit, as it's a Linode chat, if you don't mind. So which are the products that or the services that we offer are you using at the moment?
Loads of compute. Without a doubt, compute is definitely the biggest. It's your bread and butter, as I understand it as well.
Of course, yeah.
Gives us that scalability. It allows us to spin up and down for Black Friday deals. We have e-commerce customers that will absolutely get loads of traffic for Black Friday. We've also got another customer that's highly connected to sewing, and every time the sewing bee is on, they will get a huge influx of traffic. I don't know if that's an international reference. TV program does lots of sewing, but we have to scale their infrastructure to respond to that TV show, and having the dedicated compute very much allows us to have that raw intensive boxes, but without the contracts, and still being able to grow them and shrink them back down again, which is really, really useful. Next thing, we've got loads of block storage and object storage as well. Great for that portability of data. Your node balancers. Node balancers are actually quite interesting in the sense of we've got some customers that are using it as load balancers, but we've also got a few customers that use it purely for maintenance, in the sense of they've got their node balancer in front of their infrastructure, and when they need to do a big job which takes them offline for a number of hours, historically, then it allows us to very quickly just send all traffic to a little node, so that they can put up a nice little maintenance page and completely rebuild everything behind the scenes by just having that node balancer in front of it and that option there. The same with the cloud firewall, to be honest. It just allows you to have complete independence from your infrastructure behind the scenes by having this front level in front of everything.
That's really interesting. So in which cases would you say that it makes more sense to go to Linode then? So these customers that you're talking about there, the sewing bee customer, let's say, for example, why choose Linode over one of the hyperscalers in that scenario?
It definitely is flexibility, not being locked in. Other providers are much more complex. I mentioned, AWS, I would consider it being a PaaS service now. Most customers don't need the complexity that comes with those hyperscaler services, and most customers can't endure the costs that come with those hyperscaler options. Linode is simple, and I mean that in a good way. It is exactly, you get what you pay for. Is really competitive pricing, and the services behind the scenes as well. I was thinking about this the other day, actually. The fact that you've now rolled out live migrations, which means that actually maintenance windows have severely reduced for us. We used to get your site is going to be migrated from this old Linode infrastructure to this new Linode infrastructure. Now it's just completely seamless, and it happens in seconds, and we get this notification through saying your Linode has been migrated. There was no downtime. It's perfect. In that regards, other providers, you have to deal with that. You have to respond to those issues.
And in terms of how well do you work with the support team? Do you find you have to lean on them much, or are you kind of, because obviously you've got a lot of technical expertise in house, do you use the support side of things much? Or
not much, and when we do, it tends to go deep really quick, which is great. And actually, that's one of the things I quite like about support, because we do have so much of these skills in-house. It tends to be a case of a customer's doing something really specific, really unique. Perhaps they're doing it on IPv6 as opposed to IPv4, and they've got this edge case with this thing happening with this thing or whatever. And that's where, we might need to contact you guys and just go, right, what's going on here? Can you help us understand? And that to and fro of getting through to an expert is is brilliant.
Excellent. Oh, that's good to hear. So, anyone watching this that's thinking, okay, this is this is my space. This is really interesting. I'm learning a lot here. What from your experience, which are the kind of the technologies around the cloud space that do you think are most exciting? Perhaps maybe emerging, or just ones that people should be focusing on if they're interested in this area. Is there one in particular, or a couple?
So. I wouldn't say it's emerging anymore, but that's probably a good thing. But Kubernetes, over the years, and one of the reasons when we started this business, we were just a Linux provider, a Linux support company. Now we're very much Linux and cloud because so much of it is going. I don't like the word serverless, but that sort of idea. It's not pure compute. It's not CPU and RAM and disk and things like that. It's about being able to put it in nodes and pods and containers in a way that you can spin these things up and spin these things down very, very organically and lovely. As such, we've become great Kubernetes experts now, and are loving every time a customer comes to us going, we're thinking of going to Kubernetes. And it's like, yeah, you're absolutely it's gonna be the right answer for you. There's going to be a lot of development work that's going to happen, especially from some of these old monolithic infrastructures where everything was designed to be run on a single box, the traditional LAMP stack of Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. However, for a lot of customers, it opens up a whole slew of doors and allows them to be very, very much more agile and respond to changes within their business as well as within their teams. So yeah, Kubernetes has been something that I'd probably say in the last couple of years has really proven itself. So it's not emerging anymore, but that actually means that we're in a brilliant position. I think it's going to go nuclear in the next couple of years, and we're just going to see more and more of that Kubernetes work.
We're over at KubeCon promoting the Linode Kubernetes engine, and I was absolutely blown away as one of my first sort of forays into it. As the not only the number of people there, but just the names, the money being poured into the event. It clearly is technology to focus on. Can I ask you, would you say it's one for the larger businesses, or is it something that's applicable to the SMB space as well?
That's probably one of the things that's going to change over the next few years. Is that yes, it is still. Because it's that kind of emerging thing, you've got to invest in it. You've got to do a number of changes to it. Every now and again, we'll come across a brand new company that is wanting to invest in Kubernetes from the offset. And that's great because you can start small and you can work up, as it were. And actually services such as you offer, where you can just one click create a Kubernetes infrastructure that you can then work on very quickly is great and brilliant for development environments, if nothing else. But at the moment, if you want to go to Kubernetes from an existing setup, I would probably say that there is a lot of development work there, and there's a lot of initial infrastructure that needs to happen. But it can only come down. It's only getting easier and easier. And some of the things that we were doing with Kubernetes early on, where we were kind of going, but there's no way of doing this, and we would have to go and find a way and develop it and push that way upstream. Now is just standard. Now it's just a one-click solution to do your own internal DNS routing and things like that within Kubernetes and such. So the barrier will continue to come down for quite some time, I think. And yeah, obviously every customer is different.
Sure, yeah, it's more accessible than ever, isn't it? That's absolutely clear. Can I switch gears with you slightly onto recruitment? Now, you've got clearly a solid team there. I love what you've said so far about the fact that you're really clearly totally invested in them, and that even steers the direction of the business. Can you give us, first of all, just an idea of how many of you are there, and which areas of the business do they operate in?
So we're a small company. I'll be totally honest. We're 8 staff. However, 7 of those are techies and work within the business. We're entirely bootstrapped, no external investment, including from myself. It's always been a slow, progressive growth. And as such, my staff vary from people that have been with us for a year to people that have been with us for 8 years. I actually used the apprenticeship scheme very early on, and it was brilliant. I'm a huge advocate for apprenticeships. When I was sitting at home on my sofa being a freelancer and I was trying to work out how to grow the business, I couldn't afford another one of me straight off the bat. And so I kind of tied in quite nicely with my personal growth, if you like. I wanted to spend the first 40 years of my life learning as much as possible and the second 40 years of my life teaching as much as possible. So I kind of decided to embrace that and go, okay, we'll bring on an apprentice. I'll help teach and bring them up to spec. Every single apprentice that we've taken on that's completed the apprenticeship has stayed on as a member of staff, which has been absolutely brilliant. And like I say, my oldest member of staff, Rob, has been with me for 8 years. He came on as apprentice. He's now running laps around me with his knowledge because he's just carried on that growth and allowed the whole business to continue to grow up with it. It's been a really, really interesting journey, and it's not showing any signs of stopping yet, which is awesome.
I really like that theme. It's something we see a lot at the moment. People are struggling to find talent in the space, and there's a lot of the advice I hear around people who are making it work is around not looking for the finished article, not trying to find that third line engineer straight away and go and maybe looking for the sort of the soft skills and what have you. The apprenticeships you talk about, are they specifically, I presume it's an IT specific course that these guys have come from, guys and girls I should say?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we struggled early on with the fact that actually most of the IT apprenticeships out there were Microsoft based. They wouldn't teach databases per se. They would teach MS SQL. It's like, well, surely you should be just teaching SQL, make it as open as possible. We kind of got over that. It was one of those things. It's part of the society we live in. But the fact that Microsoft has a huge market share, and I totally get that. Like I say, I'm not anti-Microsoft at all. And actually, we kind of embraced it. We just an apprenticeship by default is 20% of your learning is done in work hours. And so it's very easy for us to basically put that icing on the cake and for us personally, to turn it into Linux based, right? Take that thing that you've learned and let's just give you that extra little bit. Also, an awful lot of the techies we have here, as I've touched on before, they love learning through doing. From that point of view, it's about finding the right work for the right staff you've got. Tying back to our earlier conversation where we were talking about marketing, I genuinely drive the business that we want within the company to what my staff are currently wanting more exposure on. And it's a win-win. The customer's happy, I'm happy as the business owner, my staff's happy, they're getting the exposure that they need, the experience that they need. Really, it is just about listening to them to make sure that you've got they've got what they need, and you'll have staff for life.
That's really interesting. Actually, I was gonna say to you, kind of what would you say are the sort of the main pieces of advice you could give to an MSP that perhaps was looking to ensure they're retaining staff? But I think probably that's it. You've covered it, right? I mean, they're looking for, if they're working with technologies, if they want to work with the technology, it's because it's probably something that's quite exciting, has real value for the customers, and so therefore it's a cyclical thing, isn't it?
It's 100% an ethos thing, and it has to come from the top down. I really wanted this to be, in fact, I got a lot of criticism very early on within this business that I was running a social enterprise and not a business, not a viable business. I proved them wrong, which is awesome. But it was a bit of an uphill struggle because I wanted to run a business that I was proud of. I wanted to run a business that actually tried to give back. The things that we do with the charity giving we do at Christmas, and the events we get involved in, but also the hiring across that breadth of diversity as well is really, really hard in our industry. It's one thing. I mean, at one point a number of years ago, we opened up a job advert. We had over, I can't actually remember the numbers now. I can't remember the high number. It was over 300 CVs that we got in, various qualities. Two of them were from women. And it was just that's not representative. That's not right. So that's what I've been working on ever since. I want to make sure we get applicants, we get the ability to try and level that playing field. People will still be hired based on their skills. They will still be hired the best person for the job, but that doesn't stop you making sure that you're at least trying to make sure you have a better choice in the first place by having a more equal and diverse group of people in. One of the other things that's worked really well, if I can rant for a moment,
definitely,
was actually treating our customers and our staff the same. I realized quite early on that for the 300 CVs that I got through the door that wanted to work for us, I consider that an honor. They want to work for us. That 299 of those are going to go away disappointed. So I still wanted them to have a good view of the business. I still wanted them to kind of look at the business and hell, that they're working within the same group. If I'm hiring Linux skills, they're going to go off and work for other Linux companies. Therefore, I want them to come away with a good view of my company because it will turn into customers and vice versa. If you treat the customers that same way as well, then when you're looking for staff, you will get applicants from those customers and from people that they know of. When you put that feeler out there and say we're hiring again, I've had customers come to me, go check that person out, or I've passed the job advert on to that person. To me, customers and staff are intertwined in the way that the business ethos needs to be.
Only good things can come from having that attitude, I think, towards towards just doing the right thing by people, and particularly in this industry, it can be quite incestuous in a way. You'll often meet the same people again and again, and it's so important to be doing right by everyone. No, I really like that. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much. I know you're incredibly busy, so it was really good of you to take this amount of time out to have a chat. For people, well, first of all, if there's anyone that's out there and interested in working with you, any particular types of companies that you want to sort of reach out to and say, hey, look, we can help you, or do you want to give I think you've said some kind words and some useful information. Give us your pitch.
Honestly, I came at this business as a techie, kind of going, it's all about what you know. And I now realize it's that classic thing of it's not what you know to a full extent, it's who you know. So I'm a great believer in just keeping the door open. So if anyone wants to reach out, we've got our website, dogsbody.com. We're on a lot of the socials, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook or whatever. Do reach out. If there's something I said about apprenticeships and you just want to learn about that, more than happy to bend your ear with loads of experience, years of experience. Absolutely happy to help anyone.
Very good. Thank you so much. And as some of you might know, I'm on the Executive Community Council. I'm one of the leaders at CompTIA. They're big proponents of diversity and apprenticeships, and trying to do the best by the sort of the IT recruitment. So hopefully, if I can drag Dan along at some point to an event, that's something I'm going to be aiming to do, because I think you'd be a great match up with some of your views and experience you could share. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. The website is a place to get you. Is it all right? Can people contact you on LinkedIn? Is that a good place as well?
Sure, absolutely, yes, no problem at all.
Wonderful. Okay, we'll draw it to a close there, but thank you, and hopefully I'll speak to you again for a corporate spying session next time.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Wonderful. All the best.